Welcome to our Harmony Power broadcast. Harmony Power is so important that people know, and I always talk about it. We have the Harmony Power Foundation. That's what this is a tribute to. You stand up to bullying and stand for human equality. And what I love doing is recognizing those people in the world that are making a difference. They're promoting harmony in the world. We always focus on children, but I love focusing on those leaders in society that are doing profound things. So I'm deeply honored to have today Randy Boom Boom Blake on my show, who's considered the greatest kickboxer in America today. And, if you watch him, to see him move, I'm a lightweight and I can move pretty fast. This guy moves fast like that, and he's a big guy. That's scary, you know. But what's even better is hearing about him, what he's done, the goodness, the positivity, because a lot of fighters are out there that I'm concerned about what's happening. They're promoting the violence. You could see Randy's all about the sport and being a good sportsman and being a kind person and loving his family and those things. But I want to know from you, Randy. First of all, welcome to my show.
Well, it's good to be here. I'm honored to be on your show.
Yes. Adversity. What was the greatest adversity you had to overcome?
Man, that's a really good question. I would say the greatest adversity that I had to overcome was probably a few years back. I had a world title fight. I think it was maybe my third title defense at that time. I was fighting a guy from Great Britain, and some of the things that my coaches and I noticed was every time this guy would throw a right leg kick, he would drop his right hand. And so me being left-handed, I'm naturally left-handed. So that was kind of my bread and butter, my go-to punch. I said, well, cool. I think we can finish this guy with a left hook, or at least a jab, something left-handed. So my coaches and I, we spent countless weeks drilling counterattacks on when this person throws a right leg round kick. We're going to throw a left combination back. And obviously the confidence rose because I'm left-handed. And we get there fight night, first round, we're going back and forth, and something happened in the clinch. And even to this day, I don't really know how it happened, but I threw a knee, and my opponent called a foul. Now, in the fighting world, when you get a foul called, you go to a neutral corner, you get up to 5 minutes to recover. So the pain hadn't even kicked in at that time. I'm in my neutral corner. I look down at my bicep, but my left arm is rolled up
That's
and it's
cool.
up underneath my armpit.
You have no
So
idea
with that,
what happened. Yeah.
I have no idea. And so just so people can understand what that really meant was I actually tore my bicep tendon. So your bicep is attached by
Right.
two ends. At the very top, you
Yep.
have your long head, and at the elbow, you have what's called the distal end. And that's where I tore my bicep.
People don't realize
So
the strength really comes from the most from your tendons. That's what people don't realize.
right.
Yeah.
And so you lose all the ability to pronate and supinate, simply just twisting and turning.
Yeah.
So in other words, I lost the ability to make a left hook, which
That's
is what I drilled for
cool.
weeks and weeks and weeks. And so that taught me a lot because fear kicked in, anxiety kicked in. I mean, you name it. I mean, negativity kicked in, and I really thought I was going to lose that fight. I mean, I'm such a prankster, John. Just to tell you, I like to have a good time. I like to, and then when I say prankster, I don't believe in all the crappy pranks. I mean, it's just funny pranks to get a good arisement out of both of us. Ha ha ha. We can move on. So in that 5 minute time frame, I'm looking over at my coach and I said, "Hey, coach, I think I broke my arm." So he's literally thinking that, "No, stop playing around. This is a world championship fight. You're trying to play pranks on me." And I said, "No, no, no, coach, look at my arm." And so my bicep is just dangling and it's all up on top of my shoulder. He goes, "Oh my gosh." So luckily when that happened, I had about 10 seconds left in that first round. Luckily, right? So I've never seen my coaches move so fast when that bell rang. I mean, they were up in there putting ice on it. Hey man, you have another arm, you have 2 feet. Uh, okay, this is going to be a brand new game plan. use your right hand, use your 2 feet. So rounds 2 and 3, the pain was so excruciating, I stopped throwing punches.
Mm,
So I'm literally thinking, all this time I spent throwing this left hand, and this is just what's going on during the fight.
yeah.
All this time I spent throwing this left hand, I haven't worked on any of my other skill sets. I'm not confident in it. My arm
Right.
hurts. Every time I try to throw my right arm, my left arm hurts. Every time I try to kick with either leg, it hurts. Every time I move, it hurts. You know, does my opponent know that my arms hurt? Because if he kicks it one time, he can end the fight. I mean, there's a lot of adversity going on. And finally, after that third round, my coach came storming in that cage. He's poking me in my chest and he's telling me, "You need to focus. You've got a right arm. You have 2 feet. You're not gonna knock him out tonight, but you better throw some punches because if you don't throw any punches, if you don't throw any kicks, you are going to lose this fight in your hometown, and that belt is gonna go on that plane back to Great Britain."
Mm,
And that's I mean I get chills to this day when I even tell my own story.
yeah.
But that moment that woke me up,
As a parent,
and
yes.
I didn't finish the guy. I actually got out there in the fourth round. I knocked him down. I was scoring points. Fifth round, I went out there, scored some more points, and I got my hand raised. But for me, I think that was the greatest test of adversity to me because, things are great in life when things are going your way. But when your greatest weapon is taken away from you, how do you react? What's your backup plan?
That's
So,
amazing, really, because you had to depend on what you didn't really believe in the first place. You believe in that one move. It's like you
yes,
put all your eggs in one basket, that expression, right? And you,
yes,
wait a second, I'm going to have to think outside the box here and compensate and figure it out, right? So it's kind of like reminds me. At first, all, it's a brilliant story. I love that story, and
thank you.
it speaks volumes about like you have to get up and get around it. I tell people do martial arts, even my own school. Oh, I hurt my arm. I hurt this part. I'm like, if you're out in the street, you're not gonna say, oh, you hurt that part. Well, I'll turn this way. I'll fight you this way. They come in even harder when they see you're injured. I said, so if you don't learn to train around an injury, you're not doing martial arts. I don't know what you're doing. You don't learn to train around it. And when you train around it, I tell people it heals that injury much faster. Of course, you go to the doctor and the doctors diagnose it, but you go around it with your body. But the fact that you learn to get around it, that's survival. You had to survive because you're gonna get knocked, you can get knocked out. As soon as you're like, okay, I'm weak, I can't fight anymore. It doesn't matter. You didn't allow that to happen. So that's a great story about overcoming adversity, I must say. And that speaks
Thank you.
volumes, right? And it's a great, and that in itself, it teaches people that they got to move on, no matter what they think they feel like they're failing. Look, find that light in the picture and go there. I think that's the message here. But what have you done? What are you doing now that you feel promotes harmony, that helps the world in what you're doing in your purpose? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so what I'm doing now is I'm speaking. So speaking as in I'm speaking out in small groups, big groups, and I'm just telling my story. Uh, I think in the world that we live in today, we live in this social media world, and we see these A-list celebrities and athletes and everyone with these big homes and lots of cars, and we often try to compare our lives to their lives. And so it ultimately makes us feel inadequate. We feel inferior and we don't necessarily have any guidance or direction. And so what I'm doing is I'm just telling my story. Um, One of the greatest things I've done this, not this year, but last year, was I've gone to prisons. So literally, I'm speaking hope into these guys.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and
Yeah, I was watching a Netflix series which was shockingly profound, and I have to mention it. And the title doesn't do it justice because the title is violent. It's just to be a killer, right? So you go and you watch
Hmm.
everybody's story, how they get there, and what you could streamline. That's why Harmony Power is so important to me. You could streamline through parental bullying, peer bullying, every one of them. Everyone's been tormented. So either people take the torture, the torment, and they hold on to it and do it to someone else because they don't know what to do with that pain, or they go out there and save the world. But 9 out of 10 people are going to go and hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. So when you go into
Right.
those prisons and you're telling your story, how you overcame adversity in a positive way, you're saying this is what you can do. You don't have to go out there and repeat the same thing again or hurt each other while you're there. It's fascinating to think. So I think that's what people have to wake up to, is that when you look at these people who are serving or doing time, they look at them like down upon them. You're bad. You know what? Everybody's flawed. And
Right.
in a moment where there were moments when I had fights growing up in school, a bully, torturing me and me knocking that bully down this flight of stairs. And they're giants. Now, what if that person hit his head and died? Where would I be?
Hmm.
We don't realize that. That's that
Yeah.
close when you're in a conflict and suddenly you're a killer. You're a bad person. And that's just
Hmm.
not how things always happen. It's not all black and white. We like to put people in a box and call them bad people. We're not reforming those people. And the fact that you go in there and do that, I didn't even know that till now. I got to tell you, that's really something. You go in there and speak to these people, and they respect you. They know don't mess with you. It takes
Hmm.
a fighter to go into a prison because they know that okay, this guy can fight. Obviously, if you had three of them, you're gonna have a problem. But they respect people who can fight. Like when I go into bad areas with Harmony Power, they know I'm a martial arts guy. Even though these gangs,
Hmm.
they can easily, pull a trigger if they don't like me. But they like me because I'm going in there in their neighborhood. I'm trying to help them, and I
Hmm.
break dance. So I have that connection. So what you're doing there is really commendable. That alone, I want to give this to you. Just that alone, right here. You could tell me more about you, but you doing those
Oh,
things,
wow.
it, Harmony Power Certificate of Award, Randy Boom Boom Blake has been awarded the certificate for dedication, commitment, and outstanding efforts in promoting harmony in the world. I got to tell you, that takes a lot of courage to go out there and into these areas that are dangerous and teach people how to love themselves, and giving them, hope and that light that they have the power to change who they are, that the freedom that they're trying to achieve is in themselves. There's people that are
Mm.
not behind bars and they walk around like they're in bars because they're stuck in their own body. They've not expanded who they are, or they're living in a lie. And there are those people in prison who feel very free because they're no longer bound, they're not in their lies anymore. They're in their truth. This people, I've studied these things and I have a lot of compassion for people who have gone through a lot. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like I tell those guys, like, hey, we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And I always tell them, because I've gone up there at least 5 times last year, and I always tell them, I want you guys to know I'm by no means a perfect man.
No,
I'm a progressing man. And I say the difference between you and I just didn't get caught.
that's right.
So it's like, yeah, and when I tell them that, then they perk up. See, now we kind of talked off the script
No,
about now they can relate to me. Now they don't see me as this perfect man who's always had everything put together, always. No, I've had issues and things I had to overcome just like you. But the cool thing about this program in this prison is they're taking these classes. So they're doing college courses. A lot of them have degrees, like they've gone to college in prison, obviously. And they're working on a plan. See, the problem, especially here in Oklahoma, our prisons, our system here in Oklahoma is set up for failure. So it's like saying if you go to prison in Oklahoma, you get out. Well, what happens is we put this big X on your back. So
right,
we're not gonna hire you. We're not gonna teach you anything, and you're off on your own and you figure out life. Well, what do you think is going to happen in about a year or two? You're going to go right back to prison because you don't know anything else to do. Nobody
right.
won't hire you. You know, everyone looks at you as a, mistake, a black sheep. You know, you don't fit in.
It's survival mode. It's a
It,
survival
it,
mode. If you're not going to get,
right.
I'm going to take from you because you're not helping me. So what am I supposed to do? How am I going to eat? This
How
is
am I
what
going to eat? Pay bills.
hey, Bill's right. Where's my dignity?
Yeah.
And
Right.
look, a lot of there are those too who are looking for handouts and they want to take because they want the handout. But I really
Hmm.
feel they people need that fair shot. They need a fair chance. And if they don't have a skill to offer, how are they going to
Hmm.
become productive in society? They're going to come back and be repeat offenders. That's
Yep.
the issue. This is the issue. And I really look when I ran for Congress in New Jersey in the Libertarian Party, and it was a great experience. And I went into this place. It was in an area of Pennsylvania. I forgot what city. And this one person was a person who reformed himself. He was in prison. He was educated. He reformed himself. He got into business where he took an old building, converted it into like this vertical agriculture where they grow food with these machines. He would hire people coming out of prison, put them $15 an hour with medical benefits. I met some of the people, some of the toughest criminals were in this place. They were taking me on tours. They were talking to me. They were like, "Oh yeah, I did this horrible thing. You know, horrible things they did, and they were so happy the life they're living." And I was like, wow, if I became a congressman, I would take buildings and do that because the solutions to a lot of this crime is there. But nobody wants to do anything. It's crazy to me. That's why
Hmm.
Harmony Power is a solution. It's actually the solution because we're recognizing the good children are doing in mass volume every year in school, and it's in their report card. You have a child who believes in themselves, they're less likely to commit crimes, a whole lot less likely to not succeed. They're going to succeed because they did something for themselves in the community. That's the issue. That's the biggest issue. And I know for certain with people like you in the world, there's a lot of hope. So it's really great having you on the show and giving you this award. I'll be sending this to you. You're a
Okay.
good human being, so it's a wonderful honor to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.